Good evening, everyone. Yang Yan Zhao. I am back again tonight. We have an extra special guest who is going to help you to gas up the horror content in your top role playing games, tabletop role playing, everything, basically. But very quickly, let's talk about, we'll talk about Gods of the Forbidden North in just a little bit, but let's talk about Empire of the Undying Sun. We have 66 hours left to get a 450 page horror campaign for both Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition and 1st edition. And so, what's it about? We have settings where there's something haunted going on in the woods. You have various factions struggling for power. At one point, your party will be beset by a zombie invasion. We'll have swashbuckling pirate adventures. If they're lucky, they'll find their way to the Empire of the Undying Sun, where there will be jungles teeming with wildlife waiting to devour their flesh, sands where you can hear the spirits of the dead howling at night, all sorts of ancient ruins. Are they filled with magical treasures or just death? That's up for your party to find out. And this all leads to a pyramid called the Black Pyramid, which is a mega dungeon that reconfigures itself much like this Rubik's Cube style pyramid here. And in there, your players will have to make a decision that will change the fate of the world forever. We have a new character class. We've got talent trees, which are optional, or backgrounds if you are playing the 1E version. And we also have mechanics for playing in dreams. Every night when your character sleeps, they will go to dreams. And if they are astute enough, they will be able to talk to other people in the dreams. Some of them dead, perhaps even their gods. But with every dream, there comes a nightmare. And sometimes that nightmare may follow you into the waking world. And if your players are creative enough, they may become somebody else's boogeyman. So, Empire of the Undying Sun, we have 66 hours to go. Back it while you can. And that is my spiel. So, just a quick note for the rest of the week. Tomorrow night, Doomsword joins me live. He is going to be talking about talking about running monsters in AD&D 1E. He has the theory that they're not being run as optimally as they could, and he is going to tell you how to bring the terror back into your players' party. And Thursday night at midnight, or 9 p.m. if you're on Pacific time, we have a special all-star studded cast. We'll have myself, John's Longbox, Fabrizio Aiello, Jay Ashiro Finney, Vaughn Coleman, and Kat Rocha. And we are going to be talking about our top 10 H.P. Lovecraft stories. There's no better time than the witching hour. Friday night, artist extraordinaire Peter Gilmore, best known for his work on the Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter series. He is going to be coming on at 7 p.m. Friday to talk about horror in films. What makes a great horror film? What are the great classics? And what are modern classics? And he also has a new comic coming out, which I believe was titled Blood River. So we'll learn a little bit about that. And that rounds out Spook Month. And then I won't be talking about spooky things for a while. But tonight, we are still in Spook Month. And just to have us learn how to scare the pants off of your players, we have any award-winning author of the 3-volume Gods of the Forbidden North series. He is both an author and a gentleman. Rob. And you're muted.
Got to start the right way, right?
No, that's right.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So, for anyone who does not know, Gods of the Forbidden North is a 3-volume setting. You would call it like a campaign setting, right?
Yeah,
or is it a campaign guide?
It's sort of. I think it's kind of unique. There's probably not many products like it. It's to me, it's a setting and a massive mega adventure. Like if you went and bought Forgotten Realms and you didn't know what that was, it was like it'd be like if you got a book with like the campaign setting in it and enough adventure to go from first all the way to 20th level, and probably more. So, I think a lot of times you see setting and then a bunch of low level adventures and not much else. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the problem with a lot of campaign guides, to be honest. And I think it gets harder the higher level the party gets. Too many spells, like, oh, we'll just go teleport to another universe, or I'll make 80 copies of myself and have them fight instead. But it can be done.
Least favorite part of D&D, but yeah, no, it's it's funny. The first time I played 5e, I actually played Adventures in Middle Earth, which is nice. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. So they it's sort of like a stripped down. There's really not magic in it, like spells and stuff. And I just played with those classes, and I ran a game, and it was we went really high level, and it was actually really fun because even though the players got powerful like a 5e character, they couldn't teleport. They still could starve. They had to, to me that's a big part of. That's why I like older editions of D&D, and because even but the thing I like about them is that even when they do get powerful, they're still very fragile, and there's still a limit. They only have 1 or 2 slots to do this. It's
I
feel like
in Empire of the Undying Sun, I have a chapter which sort of detail, like, I give recommendations on how to run the game. And I have easy, medium, hard, and what I call chaotic evil demon DM mode. And so like easy, I'm just like, okay, just do 5e rules as written. And anywhere I've changed the rules in in this guide, like, just ignore that. And then, as you go along, like I changed the long rest structure. I bring dark vision back to a definition that's much closer to ultravision from 1E. I tell people, like, get rid of Goodberry, get rid of create food and water, and
I got a house rule document that I have, and I've tweaked it over the years, and I feel like it's pretty good. It's pretty good set. It's not too hard. It doesn't. The goal was to how can I keep as much of it the same without changing too much, so that way it wasn't, you know what I mean? And so I did a couple little tricks, like one of them, for example, was one of the biggest problems I don't like about 5e is that let's say you're first level and you have 15 hit points, right? And I'll probably get derailing you here, but let's say you have 15 heavens. To me, this is part of the horror. I'll link that into the horror. This is part of the horror because players aren't afraid to die. Their characters are, then they're not going to be as scared, I feel like. And I feel like when they care about their characters, I think it's a big part of it. When they care about their character a lot, then if you make it where they're a little more fragile, they start really caring and things really scare them. So I always wanted to bring that to 5e, because I feel like it's a little too easy at times, unless you go overboard. It's the only way to sort of bounce it out. But the little trick I have is, one of them is if you get what is it? So your hit, if let's say you have 100 hit points, the standard rules, if you die, you can't die from damage unless you hit a negative version of your maximum hit points. So negative 100 hit points, right? So my rule is that every character, it's 30. And what it is if you get less than 10 points, you just start dying normally. But if you get 10 points of negative damage over your 0 or 20, you get a death save failure, then a death save failure, then the third one's an automatic kill.
Nice.
So what happens, it's easy to remember, and it still works with what's there. But it's sort of like, oh man, I took negative 22 damage after, so I'm at 2 death save failure. Whoa, I got a big hit. It's a little change. It's not crazy, but I feel like that really helps.
Yeah, it really makes a big difference because it directly affects the way people play. So in Empire, very early on, people most likely will end up getting cursed by a god who takes away death saving throws. And then later on, you more or less have to carry around, or you're trying to acquire an item that will cancel out death saving throws within a 1 mile radius. So, people right away, they start playing like 1E, whereas maybe you would have a health potion or something. Now they're stocking up on scrolls of cure wounds. They're making sure if they don't have a cleric, they're hiring a cleric. And then the other things like I was mentioning, once you get into the more difficult levels of play, I recommend changing how long rest works. I don't like how you get all the hit points back in 5e. But I also don't like 1E where you get like 1 hit point back a night. Like that's too punishing. I played in like campaigns like that, and it's like when you have to keep folders of extra characters lying around, like it's a little too much, and then I just don't care about anybody anymore, So I change it to you don't get hit points back, but you get the hit dice back, which you can choose to use if you want. Considering you only get maximum. Like if you're level 8, you can only get 4 hit dice back. So you can definitely get a good chunk of hit points back. But once you're in a dungeon or something, you're not going to get back up to full that way. So I think it makes it harder. And then if you're playing chaotic evil DM mode, I recommend in the back of the DMG, it mentions having long rests being you have to rest for 1 week, and a short rest is an 8-hour sleep. So if you're in that dungeon, you are not just hanging out for a week, not getting interrupted by creatures. So, it makes it really tough.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I think I also do it's like this really popular one that kind of you can easily search for and find it, but it's like a lingering injury table by damage type. Mm-hmm. And I feel like after all the experimentation I've done, like I feel like 5e is designed to be simple for what's supposed to be. It's supposed to be simple for the referee, and the reason they do the hit point restoration thing is because we go away for a week, everyone forgot what they had anyway. So like
that's true.
Oh yeah, we rested, we're good. So it feels like the way you get around that, I found, is like players actually really hate it when they get a lingering injury that doesn't go away very easily. And so I feel like if you do that trick I did, like where it's like, hey, you could actually die pretty quickly, but the death save mechanic still works the same. It's just changing the threshold, what kills you instantly. Mm-hmm. And there's that little extra like, ooh, I got a real big hit, I take extra death saves. And then you pair that with a lingering injury when you go down. Usually like the dude lost his hand or
yeah.
Even if it's something like temporary, and a lot of the times it takes a long time to heal.
Yes.
And it's not where you can just run off and, hey, I'm going to go sleep this off. Like, yeah, you can sleep off the hit points, but that one, like your concussion is going to keep and like what happens is the players are like, oh man, this really sucks. And like it's like, it almost creates the fear of like, man, I'm going to die. I'm weaker, but they don't actually die because it's still 5e.
Yeah.
Unless they get hit overhead, like.
But it does kind of change things too, in that people will stop being murder hobos once they like, oh, that might be a little tough. If I lose some fingers, it's a problem.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, I have like tables of diseases, and I have like a critical hit and critical failure tables with similar types of injuries. So it's been a lot of fun testing those out.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I think only made a slight change to the one I found online. I basically made it where only like regenerate can like I have to go back and look, But basically, it's something where it's really hard to make it go away. But I also made some medicine rules to make that skill more useful.
Yes,
I feel like that's the most useless skill in the game. And like, but you actually could make that really useful if, like, for example, it cuts the time in half of a lingering injury if you do a surgery, a field surgery, and you spend some gold, which of course already has a meaningless value in that game, you know. Which also, by the way, you got to do XP for gold with 5e. I got my own system for that too. Whatever. Anyway, so get way off topic.
I'm starting to agree. I think XP for gold. Well, that also helps to solve the murder hobo problem.
Yeah.
I agree. I really wish if they had brought that back in 5e24, like I think that would have been a major improvement. That's one reason why I kind of like, people are going to disagree with me. I like milestone leveling. I think it can be used in a bad way and a good way. Like the bad way is, okay, you beat the boss character, therefore you level, as opposed to like, at 2 months from now, you're going to level, and it's assumed that your characters have done something, have done like a lot of adventuring, like little side quests and this and that. So you should be able to say, okay, at this point they're high enough. And if they don't do anything, then of course you don't actually allow them to level. But that's a different different topic.
I think milestone leveling has its place, but in the game, like a lot of people get in there like silo. This is how you got to do it. I feel like there's always, every game's like, you're playing Call of Cthulhu is very different than if you're playing 5e D&D versus 5e D&D going into Rapanathuk like 1e style. There's difference with all those, like, right? So I feel like you can't, and sometimes there's not a one size fit all. Like you gotta mechanics have to support the type of themes in the game or the feel you're going for, right? And so like, with horror, to me, like one of my favorite mechanics that does that is the Walking Dead RPG Free League with their stress dice. Like it's so fun. The Alien RPG, for those of you who played that, like it's so fun. Like it really makes you stressed out. like players get freaking stressed, and like the referee isn't even doing anything. He doesn't have to do anything. But if he does, it just makes it better, like it's.
I think there's a lot of things like that for whatever reason have gotten left out of sort of more mainstream games. Like even there's sometimes in my campaign guide where I'll say, set an egg timer and just put that egg timer, which is better than an hourglass because it ticks. And you just put it down and don't tell them what it's for. And then, like an hour later, something happens. It's up to them to like sort of figure out what's going on. But it generally it stops the like screwing around, like the 30 minutes of planning for like a 2-second action.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Like, so there was this Monty Cook. I was a big fan of Monty Cook when I was a kid growing up, and a lot of his products were really inspiring me when I was as a designer and as a writer and just as a fan. And one of my favorites from his Cypher system is if you do horror with that, kind of bring it back to your horror. I'm walking off of 5e, but there's this one escalation die he has where like it starts turning over and like your mess ups grow the higher the die gets as you turn it, and there's this whole like screw up like mechanic, and it's like normally it's like a 1, but now it goes to 2 and a 3, and it has like this building effect. So like, and he tells you how to interpret it where it's like a slasher film, like it's a little closer, stuff like that. So anyway, it's like it's fun. Like it's kind of like its own version of the stress die mechanic of things progressively getting worse and causing more problems, and that builds the stress, the die itself, and that's kind of fun. Like I haven't played, I actually haven't gotten a chance to play with that mechanic, and I've always wanted to, but it seems like it would be similar, and it's different, but it's similar in its effect, I would imagine, with the stress dice from Free League Walking Dead, because I was doing The Last of Us and other Walking Dead zombie games, and like a lot of times you don't have to have very much prepped with those games because the stress dice will create problems for you, and then the players are just they're decent players that also come up with funny things, and you're just riding with it. And you guys are having a blast, and everyone's gonna get eaten anyway. So,
So speaking of horror, horror is like that genre that goes with pretty much everything else, like PB&J. If you like heroic fantasy, if you like sword and sorcery,
sure.
it horror fits right in, even if it's not like an all over horror campaign. So when like when you're writing Gods of Forbidden North and other things, how do you go about finding that horror?
Oh, let's see. I don't. I got a lot of different kinds of horror and things that
Mhm.
affected me. Like as a kid, like obviously, like anyone, I've been scared of stuff. Right? We're all scared of stuff. So
Sure.
that's kind of where it all comes from, right? You get scared of the dark. You get scared of this. You get scared of that. Scared of dying, drowning, whatever. So for me, like personally, some of the things that scare me the most are usually more like existential types of horror, liminal horror, things where things
Mhm.
are a little off. Like those are the things that probably bother me the most today. I probably spend too much time watching backrooms videos now. Those are really fun. But anyway, really well done. Some of them are really good. But anyway, so I really like that kind of horror. I like that kind of strange things are off, but it's like the
Mhm.
uncanny valley. I'm sure you know all about that, but
Oh
but
yeah.
for the person watching who doesn't know much about it, it's sort of like it's close to It's when it's like that little valley of things are close to humanity, but they're not quite. It's just something's a little off. So like looking at a weird android robot or something that's just a little creepy because it's
Mhm.
not quite human, but it's close. And your brain doesn't know how to what is it, the limbic system or whatever it's called, doesn't know
Mhm.
how to classify it, and so that causes you unease and causes you to kind of be weird. So to me, like when I start thinking of like what's scary, I mean the first thing I think of is, well, it's Dungeons and Dragons. So the objective is you're going into dark places in the world, and there's dark
Mhm.
stuff going on in those dark places in the world, and that's pretty scary, right? Like just and you
Oh
don't
yeah.
know what's down there, which of course is a key element of most horror, right? You don't know what's going on, right? It's you don't know what that thing is, whether it looks really close to being human or not. That's why masks are scary, right? You don't know what the person's intention is,
Yeah.
right? So you don't know, are they friendly, are they not? It's got a smile on it, but it's a fake smile. I don't trust it, like, is this guy gonna kill me? What's going on? So to me, like it's kind of the same thing. I think tabletop horror is really hard to do. I'm not saying it's impossible. I've scared my players before. I've scared them really good. A couple times. I'm a pretty good referee, not to brag. I'm not the best in the world. I'm sure there's better ones, but like I'm good.
Mhm.
Usually, players that play with me think I'm one of the best or the best they play with, and that's how I got into writing because I thought, well, maybe I could translate this into writing stuff. It's kind of what logic was
Yeah.
like. And to me, the scaring thing was, I think part of it probably lies on the DM, obviously, when there's a performance aspect, and then there's the writing or the setup aspect or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, if it's a module or just your own prep. So I think both have to be clicking for it to work really well. And it can help if there's a mechanical aspect where the mechanic is helping.
Yeah.
You don't need the mechanic, but I feel like that definitely helps. If you can take that burden off, the die itself becomes the unknown scary thing to some extent. But that's those are sort of, to me, those are the three components. It's like you got to have, there's some performative aspects of the referee. So if your referee's not that great, it might not be that scary. But even if the writing's good, right, or even if the mechanic's good, the the players could pick up his slack if the mechanic is good, but the writing alone probably not, because he's not going to perform it well. And I guess that to me is where tabletop is sort of like a unique, you know, I don't know, genre, whatever you want to call it, like medium, whatever. Uh, brain shutting down. But basically, like it's just it requires multiple things, and it's harder to do. Unlike like you watch a show like a backrooms video or something, and you just have to
Yeah. Yeah.
sit there and watch, right? Like your brain shuts back. You don't have to do. You're just observing, but you're a participant. And a lot of times people start. There's little cues that can throw things off, like if a human on the performative aspect. If a human gives something away because they giggle or laugh or do something that's not scary, that can affect the experience. So I try, to get back to your question, when I'm writing, thinking of those things in my head, I think, how can I make this as scary as possible? When I'm actually saying this is a true horror scenario, how do I make this as scary as possible, where even if the performer is not that great, it could still be scary? Because there's a lot of guys that aren't that great at that because they're not actors, right? Like, they're
Yeah.
dirty guys, right? Like, we're not exactly known for our social finesse normally, right? Like,
Yeah.
just reading it or performing it or whatever. Like, it's not that we're not funny or smart, but in that moment, we're not necessarily going to win ourselves an Oscar.
Yeah.
How do you get over that and make it where just a guy talking normally like this with nothing special going on could still be scary? And so at that point, I start going, okay, well, you have to give him the tools he needs, some kind of mechanic and some kind of details that are simple enough for him to deliver. Sometimes maybe a little advice on how to deliver it. Hopefully he read ahead, and then maybe that'll set him up in the best circumstances possible. So from writing it, that's how I approach it. Essentially, I'm assuming the worst, and it's sort of like when I was a tech writer at the Department of Defense, and we used to, like, we had to do all these writing. We had to write for satellite, like these satellite manuals, like these 800-page tech manuals to telling you how to, like, set something up in the field or do this or that and break it down, or if you get shot with a bullet, how you fix it. That's like one of the many instructions in there. And the goal was like, who are we writing this for? We have to write this for the dumbest private. The dumbest private we can imagine. I'm like, myself at 19 years old. I'm like, that's him, right? Easy to figure out. He's pretty dumb, right? So, like, and just totally no common sense. Can he get through this and understand it, right? So, that's kind of how I think of it. Like, if we had the dumbest private, if you will, running this scenario, how could they still be scary if I give them the tools? And that's kind of what I'm attempting to do. That's essentially what's informing me. So, I don't know if I totally pulled off, but in my play test with me, of course, I'm the author. It's a little different. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's why the tech writer has to get the hell out of the room when the private goes in there to test it out. Right. See if you get any help. Right. And so, but it's scary when I run it, and it's using techniques I used to scare people at my table. But yeah, so there you go. I don't know if I answered, but that's kind of the start.
No. I totally agree with you there too. How much do you think making it personal adds to the horror of things?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it kind of has to be personal. I feel like I'm just spitballing here. I'm not a horror guru or anything, but, like, I guess I just tend to end up doing a lot of horrific stuff. It seems like, I don't know why. Maybe because I think the world's horror. I don't know. But to me, it's like always got to have a personal element on some level. If you think about it, just kind of spitballing, because like if you did body horror, right? It's your body, right? It's pretty personal, right? If it's liminal horror, it's your experience in places where you thought you were safe, but now there's something that's there that's making you uneasy. If it's like, evil spirits and stuff, right? Like, this is really something that can be very personal, because maybe they know you, or, like, it's that kind of creep stuff, right? Like, to me, it's sort of, there's always some element, like the murderer coming to get you. Does he know you? Like, or do you have some connection to him? I always, the best horror stuff, like, always has a really strong characterization. And I guess to go back to the D&D type games or role-playing games, the player, I think, and it's not necessary all the time, but, like, I feel like the player has to, it's best when he cares about the character. Like a lot of times my players are going through horror scenarios when they've had their characters beloved and they've been playing that character for a while. So now that's like, they're attached to him and they don't want him to die, and if you make it a little personal to the player and the character, what I'm saying? There's like a double layer there. You scare the player, or really that's the
Mhm.
goal, right? Scare the player, but you got to make it still believable in the fiction so that it would scare the character too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like sometimes that's a trick you can do. And I think of it like when you're writing literature, right? You have that surface layer, and then you have that sort of interior, deeper layer or layers that are double, triple meanings, right? So it's kind of the same thing. Like, you got your character, the surface layer. He doesn't want to get eaten, but then there's maybe the player, something about this disturbs him because the monster eating him looks like some strange, I don't know, does not to be creepy, but like some weird amalgamation of mothers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just like really doesn't like his mother, or just lost his mother, or something like that, right? Like, you can tell
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know how deep you want to go. You really want to scare them, like mess with them, you can do that kind of stuff. But playing on
Yeah,
their fears, because the
yeah,
fear,
yeah.
right? So
Absolutely. Yeah, I like bringing in friends and family, and like especially if they, there's always some NPC that you do a dopey voice for that they really like for no apparent reason. Well, guess what? That guy is gonna have problems in the not too distant future.
like MST3K, and then not too distant.
Yeah, I've got I mentioned there's a time when there's a zombie invasion, and I give tips to the DM like, hey, don't forget that your players have been around this town for a few levels now, so a lot of them have probably been here, so they'll have family, and then they've probably made a lot of friends. Make sure that they run across those people as the zombies are flooding in. And then the players, normally they would just be like, screw these people, let's get out of here. But then it's your brother, and it's like, oh no, we got to help him.
Yes, Rob Alderman has a very bad reputation for killing pets and animal companions,
Nice.
in particular, known for some of his most devious evils as a referee over the years. Yeah, go strike them where it's home, but you can't play it too much. You got to make them feel like every other NPC they like is safe. But there's that one who's just too likable.
Exactly. Especially if the voice is hard to do.
Not Dorak, the goblin. That was a very beloved friend of the party from mine many years ago. Poor Dorak.
uh, so we have horror, but just like anything else, you kind of need a breather at some point. What's your how do you handle the like it can't be horror all the time or people start to get numb to it.
Yeah.
It's not shocking if every time you open a door there's like a jump scare guy in a mask. So how do you go about mixing in, because you're not entirely in charge of like what order players are going to encounter things in your world, but how do you go about making sort of like normal threats or normal challenges versus horror in games.
Well, I guess I mean, again, depending on the product you're designing, but let's just say Gods of the Forbidden North.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I was like, I had horror like pretty much in the very first opening scenario of its own kind, right? Like the horror of, oh my gosh, this black wizard dude's in our face who just killed this guy, right? And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, it backs off that, and now the players are doing their investigation, and they're saving people, and they're fighting criminals, and like Batman. And then they go out and they start, go in the wilderness. And even if they get their own choice here on where they want to go, the rough areas around that they can go to, right? As a designer, you're thinking they could probably go here, or here, here, and like the vibe of each of those that you've designed. And so what I did was my next horror scenario was at the Fort Eichenvar.
Mm-hmm.
Ruins of Fort Eichenvar. And one of the tricks that I usually try to do with horror, and I found that this works really well with players. One of my as a DM, I figured this out, and it seems to work in the writing as well, is that you build the player up, which they like anyway, especially modern players. You build them up and let them feel like have their champion moment and give it
Mm-hmm.
to them and let them earn it and let them enjoy it and relish it. And then you scare the crap out of them, like right afterward.
Yeah.
Because it reminds them they're still mortal, but you didn't take anything away from them. And so like like the way I designed it was like, you go fight the Shun, who are these bad slavers who are bad dudes. You should, unless you're really bad tactics, you should, roll really bad. You should roll in there third level or so and probably stomp them. Like that's been my play test. Is very few cases where players have gotten wiped out unless they played really badly, and most are able to figure it out and think through and they wipe it out and they have this champion moment. They feel like, wow, we did this great good. We feel great. Hey, what's that over in the Eastern Island? And like then they of their own volition go in. And why'd they blow the bridge up? Right? Like these little details, which on their own mean nothing and aren't scary. And what happens is they start slowly piecing things together. And that's the other trick is like, is I think if you do it well, it's in RPGs, especially, you have to put it in the vivid details of the setting, like an investigation where nothing's explained. They have to find things and be able to figure out what that means or maybe what that's. And they're like in most horror, they start to fill in the gaps. Usually it's scarier than anything you could have written. And so, and then of course the monster down in that particular part of the thing is really weird. And that's to me, for most D&D players particularly, just a monster they don't know usually scares the crap out of them right away.
Yeah, for sure.
Really weird. And it doesn't work normally. Just any monster. You take like a skeleton and make it red and like they'll all stop. Like all my players I've ever played with, they're all these veterans who know the monster manual better than I do. And they like see a monster, like a red skinned skeleton. What? Like what? What's that mean? Like they'll stop. Someone stops and says, guys, hold on. They get a little nervous because they don't know, right? Because most players, it's just look, every Pathfinder bestiary, every D&D edition monster man has the same damn monsters in it over and over and over again. So to me, for tabletop, one of the tricks is you've got to, in addition to spacing it out and only using it every now and then, you've got to make it all new. You got it, and that's why one of the reasons that design choices for Gods of the North was that I was like, I want almost all new monsters for the most part, even if they're just slightly reskinned. I want them to not be recognizable because the players they don't know what it is. It feels like they're playing the game the first time. And that in itself is scary without even doing horror, But then you want to do horror, right? Like, okay, now you can start doing those other little steps. So we'll trick the environment, implying things without saying them, and then the mechanics of either the monsters or the situation or, and you can start to play with them. And if you set it up right for an inexperienced or boring DM, maybe it's still scary. Right. So just I think keeping in line all that in your head, and it's never going to be perfect. Right. But you gotta like maximize. It's like maximizing the chance that it could still be scary if certain parts aren't working well, it'll still be scary. And that's sort of like what you're trying to do. I don't know if I did that, but that was what I was thinking of when I did it, But
and there's always there's a term that you've mentioned several times that I can never remember, which is the nuggets of knowledge or
NARB.
NARB?
NARB, NARB, narrative bit.
Narrative. Okay, NARBs. That's it. How has that using? Okay, so maybe give like a quick explanation for anyone who doesn't know what a NARB is.
All right, so like so it's a video game term, and it's if you guys ever played a game like I mean any horror game, but like let's just say for a second like you played like a game like Elden Ring or something. A game where there's not like really almost any story, like at least like you show up and there's a huge cutscene with like tons of characters it's just like dudes in black and he's in this strange place, go. Right, and you're like, what's going on, right? Like think of like that type of game, okay, Dark Souls or something. So it's kind of like, how do you tell a story there? Well, there's a story and it's very well done. There's a whole narrative team that did it. And the way they did it was they didn't do it through cutscenes or dialogue and all that stuff. They did it through NARBs, narrative bits. And basically, I mean, in a very simple way, it's basically the old show don't tell from creative writing, but it's very specific to video games because that's sort of where the term arose out of. Basically, it's those visual bits that you read or see or hear that by themselves don't have no significance on their own. But when you start to piece them together with other pieces, whether it's a sound or a visual or some design or some architecture or whatever, or even a little bit of text and something written either in the item description or something you find in an in-game written kind of text, it starts to tell a story with all those pieces. And the more pieces you have, the more you're able to surmise what's going on, even though no one ever sat you down and said 800 years ago and for the next few pages, right? Like, and so narrative bits they're designed to be found out of order because a lot of games nowadays are not linear, right? And so basically video game writers are getting better at, like I need a couple of, think of it like clues in a mystery, and the players can come and search this house any way they want. They can start in the backyard, they go straight to the basement, they can go to the top floor, they can do whatever they want right from the beginning. So if you had a bunch of clues, how would you spread it out, right? Like you couldn't control the pacing like a movie, like a horror movie. So what you would do is you would put the little clues there, and the clues would have to tell a story on their own without anyone there to hold their hand or tell them. So for example, you find a little baby rattle, a little bit of blood, right?
Yeah.
It's disturbing or weird or whatever, but maybe it's just ketchup. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then you go find, like a wall shadow, like a nuclear blast of a child in the attic. Wait a minute, what? Right? Now you're like,
yeah,
I just made that up, but think about that. Like that's what you found. That's the second thing. You could have found them in any order, but now you got two pieces. And those two pieces are starting to tell something went down here, and I don't know what it is, and I'm trying to figure out, and it ain't coming together, right? Now you're scared, you're nervous, right? You find a third piece, a fourth piece. Now, video games a lot of times are designed where like you may not find them all. So you got to tell enough of the story, at least to get them a sense of what's going on. So how do you do that? And that's where it becomes tricky. What if a player blows through them? Like, can you still tell the story? So they have tricks for that too, but like that's essentially the idea is like, how do you do that? So you have to always approach it, I think, with tabletop, and this is why tabletop game writers usually make very good video game writers, because they know that it's not a cinematic like linear traditional storytelling mode. It's an immersive game mode where the player is the protagonist. There's no NPC who's the hero. You're the hero. And so what they have to do is wherever you go, whatever you do is the hero. Is the story, that's the main. So you have to design everything around that, right? You have to design everywhere where it's for them, right? So thinking about that. So anyway, so that's kind of what a NARB is a NARB is sort of a form of that. I mean, like I said, it's existed in different forms, but you probably never heard it called a NARB. But it's very specific to video games. But video games are spawned out of tabletop games, really, a lot of them.
Yeah, of course.
So it's funny. Like I think now video games are starting to give back. There's ideas that I've taken from video games back, but that they got life bars from role playing games, stuff like that. So it's kind of funny, but anyway.
Yeah, it's like an incestuous yin and yang of how things go around. Not always for the better, but it is nice when you sort of like rediscover things that worked well before. Like, oh yeah, this is great. So with the NARBs, how has that changed or added to your ability to make horror seem real? Now you were mentioning certainly things, blood on a rattle, the shadow of a kid on a wall. But how? Let's say someone is like, okay, I've got my own home campaign, and I really want to juice up that horror. How would you suggest throwing in the NARBs so that they make it work? Like, do they need like a very detailed backstory for where things are going, or can they just do it almost no prep style?
I mean, I think, okay, you just saw how effective that was, and I just made that up with the rattle and the shadow. I had no idea where I was going with that, but Yang's face went, because it works, right? Like, and that was screwing around here. So, like, I guess, like, that's what I'm trying to say. So I think you could do both. You could be one of the like, I'm the type of person that has to write everything out and figure it out first. Like, it's just the way I am. But a lot of people aren't like that. And they're like, no, I just want to sit down 5 minutes beforehand, just roll some dice and go. And that's, a lot of people are like that. That's cool. I think NARBs are just like, it's kind of like the 3 clue rule or something. It's like it's a toolbox you can use, knowing that you just have to break up. Probably the only thing you have to probably plan. I mean, you might not even have to do this if you're smart enough and clever enough on the fly, but like, even if you just plan, like, I just need 5 items.
Yep.
What are my 5 clues? You could even probably think of them as like the 5 room encounter build. The 5 room. Like, one's the threshold. The threshold of the mystery. One's the like the twist. One's the whatever the 5 were. That's probably, you could probably kind of what's the word I'm using? Kind of translate that graph. That's what I was trying to say. Graph the NARB onto those 5 and use them as your core setup. You could do the 3 clue rule for each of those, however many NARBs you have. I need to get across this. What are the 3 different ways I could do it? And then you have 3 NARBs for the one idea, and they're all different ways of taking it if you really have time. You could write a whole backstory and then say, how can I NARBify it? Like, okay, like, guy has bad history. History gets worse. He goes to camp, gets picked on. Mother always around him, overbearing, but also there in his only home. Gets drowned. Okay, now he's like back and he's undead or whatever. So, like, all those little stages, like, how could you tell that story with a NARB?
Yeah.
So, like, if I were like investigating the Voorhees residence, let's just say, like, I'm running around the camp and I find the Voorhees house. Maybe I find some, like, in one room I find like like really like an overbearing letter from a mother, a really short note to the teacher that tells me, even though it has nothing to do with what's going on, what it's telling me is the mother's really involved and a little too protective of her son. You see that?
Yeah.
See, even though, like, whatever that's exchange has really nothing to do with the narrative, but it does, because it tells us about the character. And the mother is like some sort of weird overbearing thing. Then we find another piece where it's like, like something about like swim lessons, like just one little note on the wall tacked in by the kitchen about swim lessons underlined. That's it. Swim lessons underlined. Do you see that? Like,
Yep.
And that's one way you could do. And then, like, later on, a news clipping of some boy drowning. It doesn't even get the name. You don't even get the name. Just a boy drowning. You see where this is going? Like, you see it.
Yeah.
Itself not really significant. Starting to pull those together, and you start finding out more and more and more, and then it's eventually you go, whoa, wait a minute. And what happens is a whoa moment. The player in the video game has a whoa moment, an epiphany moment, where it all links up in his mind, and he goes, oh, and he starts kind of getting the gist of what's going on. He may not have all the pieces, but he's got enough now. And what happens is the player figured that out.
Yep.
See, like, nobody told him. And that's the genius of it, right? Like, no one likes to be preached at or told what to think. Or so, like, this is a way for you to figure things out on your own, and it makes the players, even the run in the room and kill everything type, they kind of have an aha moment, and they start to feel like, oh, and then that's rewarding, and then they want to do more of it. you know?
Yeah, and I think too, most people who play tabletop RPGs like puzzles, but what they don't like is when you stop the progress of a game to
Mm.
try to remember some of your high school algebra to be able to figure out like how much the apples cost versus how much the oranges cost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or to figure out the Fibonacci sequence or something like that. Um, to me, like this is a much more like this is puzzle solving,
Yeah.
and it's a much more organic way to do it.
But it's not difficult. It's
Yeah.
not. It's just, and it's what it is. It's like, and this is why I like think of as NARBs. It's like a little piece of a little larger meal. And
Mhm.
it's like, oh, it's just a sample. Even if I'm not really hungry, like I'm the player who wants to run around kill, and I don't really care about the story. Okay, like I'll take a little bite. He says it's just one chip. You see what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
it simplifies the story as well in a way that it makes it something they can digest in little bits and pieces, and then they move on and forget about it, and they don't feel like they did any work. But then eventually, wait a minute, where did I hear that from before? Or
Yeah.
you read about, and then someone goes, oh, and then you have that moment at the table, and they start going, well, we don't know what it is, but we'll come back to that later. Now it's all in their mind, and then they find something else, the
Yep.
cabin mother's head on the thing, or whatever, the candles around it. Oh my God. Suddenly has way more significance, or and
Yeah,
nothing
and
needs to be said. You don't need to have the monologue, right? The Silmarillion does not need to be written.
that's true. And I liked how you phrased it. That these kind of things tell you about the how'd you phrase it? The character of the character. Um,
Oh,
the
it's just about the character. Like
yeah, yeah.
the detail is not even about, like, say, the murder. It's
Mhm.
or the monster. It's about the character who died that maybe caught. It's or whatever's going on. Like, and even making them care about the NPCs, even if the NPC is going to die or is already dead. Like, have you ever played a game where, like, you start learning about someone who's dead and they're investigating, you start to feel bad
Yeah.
or you start to really sympathize? Like, that makes you care more. That's why you do, now you care about, like, one person
Mhm.
dead. Well, that sucks, but I don't know him. But
Yeah.
it's little Jenny, the little girl right there on the street we used to see all the time. She'd swing around the stop sign, and they didn't stop. Like, now
Yep.
suddenly little Jenny's, even though we're joking around, like, little Jenny's like much more believable, right? And suddenly we
Mhm.
get moved by that a little bit on some level. And of course, if you can ham that up. So I guess to go back to your question, like, how often do you do it? I think in terms of NARBs, like, it depends on what your goal is. Like, if you just have like a scenario, if you will, like a single dungeon site or a single adventure mystery, then it's probably going to be every couple of rooms, right? And you're going to have things that aren't necessarily related, but maybe they are, like
Mhm.
lessons, like, and it'll be things that you don't think are related, but they all are related. You just don't know everything and don't realize how. And
Yeah, and something I hadn't thought of before was if you're the kind of DM who you can't channel your inner Matt Mercer, and you're not good with the funny voices or making up NPC dialogue on the fly,
mm,
like this is something that can also help reveal the sort of the character and the motivations of those NPCs that can make them feel a lot more real to the players, even if you're not the kind of guy who can
you don't have to
go full acting mode.
yeah, you just hey, even the handout, even you can just hand it to them a lot of times.
Yep.
Here's a little scrap of the text. And then they read it themselves, right? All you did print it out beforehand. If you just did a little extra work beforehand, you're good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was my favorite thing, was to always use handouts. I know, like, some players, like, refs, like to do that, and it's, to me, and that type of stuff, it's very effective. Like, so if you read Gods, I have a lot of those types of things where it's like these little things that are obviously like, go print that out, moron, and give it to them. Go use your crazy hand to do it yourself or whatever, but it's fun, like, and it really adds to the immersion, I guess. that quality of they're there, and that's the whole point, right? Is that
Yeah.
forget about the real world for a little bit, and they're in this scenario. Which, of course, if you can pull that off, gets them scared if they're really in a scary situation, right? And so, like the NARBs, like to kind of go back what you were saying a second ago, Yang, like even if you have a guy who's not that great at like DMing or whatever, isn't prepared, whatever, it's not that him scaring him now; it's the NARB. It's what
Yeah.
all he has to do is just, well, you find this. He just says it really straightforward, or hands it to you, and now it's pretty scary.
Yeah, and I found too that the more you can offload on players, the
Sure.
better, because they will always find ways to get themselves into more trouble than you ever could have dreamed, and they will always freak themselves out more than you could possibly think. That I've got one character who is a wizard, and he dies shortly before players should show up into that area. But somehow the players freaked themselves out because they stole stuff from him that he was coming back to get them. It's like, oh, okay, maybe he is. Maybe he is coming back to get you.
Right, that's the next skill. It's like, oh wait, they said that's better than what I had planned. I meant that all along.
Exactly.
Or you twist it a little bit. Anyway, but again, that's that part that's not always as carries over from every DM to DM.
So you mentioned too, you have a lot of different kinds of horror that you employ: body horror, liminal horror. Where are your favorite places to draw inspiration from?
Oh, I mean, probably most of them are video games and movies, just because I grew up on those.
Yeah.
My mom was like, typical 80s, 90s mom. She's like, hey, turn the TV on, son. I'll go read my Harlequin romance book. And I was like, back in the glory days of cable, right?
Latchkey
Oh,
kids.
yep. I don't know if I was quite that, but she was there, but she just was like, I'm going to go on the couch. And then 4 hours later, you're still there. She's still there. But yeah, no, she, so my brother and I just grew up on TV. Like we watched so much TV. We'd watch movies over and over again. We'd go to Blockbuster. Remember that? That was where I got a lot of horror movies. And what happened was, if my dad was there, he would check what we were getting.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom was like, she didn't care. She was just like, pay more and didn't even, as long as you got something, it's gonna go not bother me like for 2-3 hours. So my brother and I were like, we'd look at each other and we'd go, get the movie that'll hide what we really want.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that trick?
Oh yeah.
Brother and I were 1 year apart, so we would do that kind of stuff. So we would by the time we got to 12, then she was like, well, you're 12. As long as you're okay with watching it, go for it. So we would go watch all these movies that were scary, supposedly, and some of them really were, and a lot of them weren't. As I'm sure you remember those older movies, but very hit or miss, but maybe more miss. But yeah, we would watch a lot of movies. So of course that led to video games, and I love getting creeped out and scared. It's fun, like it's so now it's funny. I've gone through all these different kinds of horror. You got the gore, and you got the the traditional vampire zombie. Like when COVID happened, for example, I got really into zombies because I was thinking of like pandemic kind of stuff, right? Like me, the zombie was like that's kind of like the obvious, right? So I was like Last of Us, like Walking Dead, I was Train to Busan, like I was watching all this stuff, and it was 28 Days Later, all that stuff. And but then like later, like now like I don't know, like I have a lot of like, I guess not to get too revealing, but I have like lots of like personal like how am I doing in life, and like if I accomplished 43, like if I accomplished everything I really want, where am I on that? I'm not maybe not. So like, what happens is a lot of the horror is like I like liminal horror now, because it's like you're surrounded by all these boring, similar, same old things, but there's something off.
Yeah.
And that kind of echoes how I feel sometimes about like in my own life, like something's off. I really accomplished. Am I doing what I want? Like, so you can see the horror there, like that becomes like the back room kind of stuff where it's like, obviously some creature, the entity or whatever comes out, but like, but it's kind of you can see the echo of the pair. So I guess like horror has followed me whenever I've in my personal life and like whatever I'm kind of like facing in my life, wherever I'm at, on the spectrum, so to speak, where it's like, that is okay. That's what I'm struggling with. So that's the things I'm scared of, and if that makes sense. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, there's all sorts of different kind of horrors.
Mhm.
Like you can give you a player existential dread that if they don't uh, find enough gold at the next dungeon, their parents will lose their farm, or uh, their wife will leave them, or there's all sorts of ways to mess with it. So Jorge asks, something I don't get about zombie movies. First thing you should get is armor. They all wear tank tops. Yeah, and well, the thing is, zombies too, right? Like you could just tape up magazines if you could find magazines anymore. You could just tape those up, and they can't bite through that. So I don't know why. I don't know.
but the fast zombies,
Well, yes, that could be a problem.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't like I mean, I like them because of nostalgia.
mhm.
And I thought Walking Dead did a pretty good job with them, but I don't like the old. I like it when there's types of zombies now. I like the evolution of it, where they're faster or they're slow ones, where they're big, stuff like that. I love the Last of Us's type. I thought that's really creepy because they're
Yeah.
not even real. They're really alive, like theoretically, right?
Yep.
They're like those cordyceps controlled ants or whatever. That's actually pretty
Yeah.
creepy. It's like, oh my god, they're not really dead. They're like that, and they can't do anything about it. Oh my god.
Which is also something you can do to your players. Um,
Yeah, they don't like being controlled usually. But if you do it
I don't
right,
know.
do it right. There's a way
You
to do it. Yeah.
make them roll a 1d4. They got a 25% chance to, just stand there for a turn instead of actually. They'll open their neck to the enemies instead of like those fish.
I think I had a
Uh,
mechanic like that where it drops in front of the guzzler and like offers himself like. But I think you gotta do dumb stuff to like for that. Like it's like if you did that, okay, you deserve it. I can't remember. I have to go back and read it. But I have
uh,
a new monster that's pretty creepy. I
yeah.
think it's I feel like there's two major horror scenario. Well, three, I guess, maybe four, but like three and a half. But like I've got a new true like horror, like the whole thing's a horror scenario in the third book that I'm writing now. That's almost finished.
Very cool.
It's pretty. I think it's pretty intense. So
So when is the third book coming out? I know you say you're almost finished. When do you anticipate?
so I wrote the ending like today. Uh, I mean, it had been written, drafted before, but like I came back to it and spent like 10 hours like working on it today, and it was a lot. But it's really good. I read it and was like, had to stop, and I was like, this is awesome. So I'm real excited. I would say I'm probably November. Excuse me, November 24th is when I'm scheduled to go to layout. If for some
Nice.
reason I don't get it done by then, I'd have to wait till January because Glenn Seal is off for the holiday. So or I'd have to go get somebody else to do it, which I don't want to. So my goal right now though is to hit my deadline, and I am burning the clock right now. Like basically, like I had other interviews, for example, like this month. I was like, I'm sorry, I can only do one. So Yang, you were the one coming up. I was like, all right. Yeah. Well, I was basically like, I don't actually have time for really anything right now, and I'm just I'm swamped, but work's been kicking my butt. But I'm going through it, and my brother's going through the maps because there was a lot of map errors, and so our our goal is really to, and it's a big mega dungeon. This is the final part of it that we've been kind of, I've been building towards this for a long time. I started writing this like 9 years ago. It was like, I think it was 9, somewhere around there. It was like 9 or 10. I think it's getting 9.5 or something like that. So I've been building this for a long time. The first 2 books, for those that don't know it, the first one's on the surface, the second one's the underworld. So it's like everything that's around that one hex at the very top there that Yang's got up there, right at the top of the lake. There's an open one right there, right where the mountains are, kind of in the top right of that. Yep, right there, like where the water's white, kind of in the top right. So that's where the castle is. So that final hex there, 10.25 or 24, whatever it was, that one is where the castle is, and it's a massive castle. It has 832 rooms in it, and that is just chapters 19 to 27. Because I've been keeping the count from the last 2 books. It's really one giant book, is how I look at it. It's just had to be broken up because it was so big. And I'm basically trying to finish up chapter 28 and 29 right now, and then there's the epilogue and the appendices. So that won't take very long because I've got a system down. So that would take maybe a couple of days to finish the appendices. So really, I'm trying to finish 28 and 29, the ending, to get it just right. And so, like, for example, I ended up figuring out that, like, my tesseract wasn't actually mathematically correct. So I had to, like, really do a massive revision to, like, the last level, to make it a true tesseract, because I wouldn't tolerate anything less. Then that meant I had to go back to math and figure out what the hell a tesseract was, because clearly I didn't know what it was. And now it's right, but it took a lot of work, so, like, there's that kind of stuff going on right now, and I'm just trying to, like, fix it up, but it's nearly done. So I think if it gets done November 24th, like, I think I've got a very good shot of doing that. I think like 80% chance. If it gets done by November 24th, the layout takes about 2 weeks. So it would be ready for the backers by like December 10th or 15th, somewhere in there. So it'd still be before Christmas, which is when I promised the PDF to them. That's really important. Trying very hard to get that. I don't want to break that promise. But let's just say, for somehow I don't make it, my plan is probably to take the finished chapters 19 to 27 minus the last 2, or maybe even 28 minus the last 1, and I'll probably put it in a Dropbox with the maps so that the backers can at least have access to it, and even if it doesn't have art with them, but that's the idea. So, like, I'm pretty sure I'll get it done. I feel very good right now. I'm working at a good pace. All the bad things that could have happened, like taxes and shit, have already happened. So, barring some crazy thing popping up again, because there's so many things that popped up in the last like 4 months. But barring,
yeah, that's I've got that issue too now. It's like, okay, Kickstarter is going to release my money in the middle of November. I'm getting people lined up. Like, okay, as soon as I get it, you go, so I can pay you by the end of the year and not pay taxes on that.
So yeah, it's playing that game. And it was something you couldn't ignore either. It's like, oh geez, I didn't make any money that year, but I have to. It doesn't look like that on paper because of the way the money was coming in and out. So you got to like get with your accountant and like fix that so that you don't have to pay taxes when you're not supposed to. So that kind of thing. So, but yeah, so I think if that's the case, so get back again, I'm taking forever to answer your question. But if that happens, December 15th at the latest would probably be when my backers would get the PDF. At that point, I would start making plans to start manufacturing the books. And the goal here is to get them by March, the physical copies to everyone.
Nice.
You got to navigate this like January exodus in China because it's a big New Year or whatever they call it, the holiday. They all basically take most of the month off.
Oh yeah, Chinese New Year's. Yeah, isn't that in February this year?
I don't know. I just know it's usually January is usually when it happens, and whatever it is, you can't do anything for that time. So
Tuesday,
book shipped out before then, or they have to wait till it's over.
Yeah, it looks like next year it's going to be February 17 through March 3rd.
Okay.
So you might have a little bit of time.
Well, that's great. If that's the truth, then what that means is as long as I order it by December, if I say I have an order in December, then it would be out of their gates long before. long before.
Hopefully.
That's assuming there aren't any other tariffs or anything I have to take into account. I haven't been able to. Some of the tariffs haven't really, from what I understand, haven't really affected any of that on our industry. But I haven't been paying attention to that because I've just been writing. So pretty soon, right after the November North, I'm going to pull my head out of the hole and like, okay, let's start looking at the business side of this again, and that's what I'm going to turn into for the next 2 months after that while I try to shepherd these books and get them all fulfilled, which is a lot of work,
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's it. So for the general public, I'm not going to release the book till probably March. I'll get it all together at the same time, PDF and book and drive through.
And for anyone who hasn't seen Gods of the Forbidden North yet, go check out pulphummock.com. You can get volumes 1 and 2 there, as well as some pre-gen characters and some other fun stuff. Once 3 is out, do you plan on putting 3 on your website as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I've got extra copies, I think probably 180. I got about 180 copies, something like that, of Volume 1 and Volume 2 Premium Edition. So you can, right now, if you're interested in Volume 1 or 2, you could go buy the PDF either at drive-thru, or you could get the drive-thru print-on-demand quality one, which, they do have actually a really good job for POD. Like, I'm actually been really impressed. Their book holds up. It doesn't fall apart. And you'd think with 500 pages it would, but it doesn't. So they do a good job. But like you can get just a couple bucks more. You can come to my website, pulphummock.com, Pulp Hummock, like a hammock with a U. It means hill. Pulp Hummock, Pulp Hill, essentially, because I live in Kitts Hummock in Delaware part of the year. So it's a beach in Delaware. Anyway, that's where I got the dumb name. I didn't expect this to go anywhere. Everyone keeps telling me, "Oh, I like that." I'm like, really? I probably wouldn't have picked that if I knew, but anyway, too late now. But,
it sounds Shire-like.
I like that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So one last horror question for the evening. Let's say you want to put horror in your campaign, whether it's a horror campaign or as part of something else. How do you write it in order to keep the players from turning everything into a Scooby-Doo episode?
What do you mean by that?
Just that you're trying to have like a kind of a more serious campaign, but then they turn everything into a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think okay. I think there's a couple things going on with that, because like I've had players when they get together, sometimes they're with the boys, and they write. Not always, but like a lot of times it's like a group of friends, like in the OSR, for example, who've been friends forever.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a lot of times when I had groups, not all my groups, but a lot of them were like old friends, right? So they come together just to shoot the breeze, right? And I don't think you can really get around that, like in those cases, right? So, and that's sometimes going to be out of your control. So I guess for me, it's like, again, it goes back to what I said. Like, I think if you either make it about something that they care about, or you do your work to make it where they would care about the situation somehow, either by making the NPC that died or whatever's going on, like relatable in some way, even if they're bad, like making them believable, relatable, and making it where they feel that, that's only a shade or two off from me. A lot of times that's sometimes the scariest bad guy, right? One little shade off from me and I could have been that. I feel like if you do your job there, even if the guys, the DM or the players are all goofing off, I think eventually like there'll be moments where they kind of have to get serious if you do it right. And there's gonna be times they just can't, because but that's the players. I don't think that's on you. And if they're having fun, then they're having fun, right? Like, and that's the play. But I think as a designer, you have to just sort of assume, okay, if you're gonna have inept, like kind of like Private McSnuffy with the tech writing, like if you had like inept like players or referee, how do you still make this where they still might be able to get through it and succeed? So keeping things as simple as possible, which is why NARBS is so useful, right? It's simple. That baby rattle doesn't take much to describe, right? You don't need to form anything.
Yeah.
You just say you find a rattle with 3 bloodstains on it. They're the size of fingers, a child's fingers. You find the soul shadow. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't take much.
Yeah.
And even if the guy like says it kind of like we're just laughing a little bit, like still a little weird. To me, that's so that's kind of what you do. I feel like. I think that's at least that's one aspect. Like the others, like the mechanics. Like I was talking about stress die with the thing. Well, I have a guzzler. The monster has a certain way of like, it kind of was inspired by clickers to some extent. But I also remember some monsters like a Rudderkin from 2nd edition Planescape that had his really malformed hands. And I thought it'd be really cool to have these huge hands that were dragged across the ground. And I said, okay, I want to describe very simply how this thing moves. It's really weird. And it's that uncanny, it's kind of like a human, but it's not. So it's weird. And those little elements are just creepy, right? And you give if you present it the right way, and I don't know if I did, I hope I did. If you present it the right way for the DM, he can describe that very simply, and players like, what the hell is that? And they're scared, right? And they're in the dark, and they saw the Shoon, the slaver guys, who were like 30 of them, a whole band of slavers wouldn't go on this side of the island. That's a NARB itself, right? In a sense.
Yep.
The bridge is blown up. That's a NARB, right? Like you see a little shadow in the corner when you look and it's gone. That's the NARB. Like little things start adding up and they get weird. So if you do it right, and then I think the mechanic of the way it like caught people was really creepy. I think it eats them and but then they like go in this very large void in the stomach that's a lot bigger than the thing could be. You hear that, you're like, wait, what's going on with my character? I care about him. I got to 3rd level. It took me 8 years. So because it's old school essentials, right? At that point, they care, right? So
yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
that's
mechanics, players, referee, and then the NARBing, I think, is probably a lot of it. There's probably other tricks too, but get like specific genres of horror, you know what I mean? Depending on what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. All right. So is there anything else we should know? Any final thoughts?
Well, any final thoughts about gods of the North, or about horror?
Sure.
Horror?
Anything you're thinking.
Backrooms is these really creepy videos and that are very unsettling. Go watch them. And some of them have entities. It's supposed to scare you. The creepiest ones are the ones with the entities real low key, or there's no entity and it's just weird. It's liminal horror at its finest. If you like video games that are liminal horror, particularly, because this is what I'm on. That's my pony I'm on right now. You got to play old Doom. Remember Doom? So there's this one. It's built off this creepy novel called The House of Leaves. I think it's called My House. Look up My House, WAD. If you play Doom, look that up. And it's this incredible Doom level that is just, it defies physics. It's crazy. Go play that level. It's nuts. It'll blow your mind. It's like Backrooms on crack. So anyway, those are great horrors. From Gods of the Forbidden North, I'm finishing the 3rd book very soon. It's nearly done, and it is going to bring my page count total about 1,500 or so pages. It's got 240 something pieces of art, almost 250, I think, which is a lot. I've spent a lot of money on it, and it is a huge setting with adventure. I mean, this mega dungeon alone, just the castle and the dungeons, which doesn't include all of it, is 832 rooms, which isn't the biggest in the world.
Wow.
But like there is a level underneath that I'm not including that has 13 individual tower dungeons. Each one is its own dungeon, and then there's the landscape around it, and then there's more beyond that. So like when you can bring them all together, you got 1,500 pages. It's setting. It's enough adventure to go from first to max level in a BX game over and over again, probably. I mean, really, because no one's usually going to go that long to play all that. There's just so much content, and I'm going to do more with it when I'm done with the third book. I'm going to go back and really probably give it the remastered kind of Dolman Wood kind of treatment to make it like now I can focus on formatting and expanding where I thought was a little sparse, and just really, because to me this is my magnum opus and I don't want to leave it yet. I love it. So from a business standpoint, I probably should move on fast to keep making, but I don't care. I just want to do it. So anyway, that's it.
Have you thought of making more like modules that take place within this world?
I might. I think right now I want to just get the core of it set up and really tighten up, and I want to convert it to a couple other systems too. So that's the cover I have to do this. Is well, I have to go back anyway and convert it. So I'm gonna go back and clean it all up and represent it as an OSC product, and then I'm gonna take that perfect version and then convert that over. And I need a downtime year anyway because I've been doing this for a few years and I'm tired. So giving my me that's low key work because all the creative juices are mostly done. It's just clean up, and then a little expansion on that's just for fun. But that's kind of what I want to do is I want to make it, and I want to actually try to get it down to about 1,000 pages. I've been reading a lot of like Ben Milton products and like Gavin Norman, and I like what they do. I'm not criticizing them. I don't know if I could ever do just little bullet points like with no sentences. I'm not sure I could go that far because I'm a novel writer. That's what I was trained as. But I could definitely trim it down a lot more, and certainly think more about the formatting and the presentation because I think what they do is excellent. Dolman Wood is a beautiful book. Beautiful book. I got it and was just blown away. I thought Gavin did an excellent job on the way he laid that out. I don't think there's almost any book quite like that in terms of its presentation is just the top of the line. And I saw things that I was like, man, I could do better using him following his footsteps. Like he's kind of set a bar, I think, with that product. And so he's made me rethink a lot of some of the things I'm doing in terms of how I'm presenting things. And I feel like there's a lot of improvement to be made, especially with such a large, product, right? Like, and it can be intimidating. So how can you better present it? I was already thinking that. But that product's challenging me even more in a couple of different ways. So that's kind of like part of the other part of this is I want to go back and do this. And, but anyway, working
yeah,
on it.
I know, there's always something to it where like, especially after it goes to print, like after it's out there, you're like, oh, I really should have done this other thing instead. Or, oh, I could have made that better. That's always the problem with being the author.
No, yeah. The thing is, though, I feel like I guess if you look at like a more business end of things, you're going to think like the business side of me is like move to the next thing, and just take what you learned and just keep going. The artist in me, like because that's what I was, before I started all this. I care more about that than less about dollars. So to me, like all the money I've raised is a lot, but like I've blown it all on art. Like I don't.
Yeah, that stuff is expensive.
Yeah, and like but I want it to look nice, and even when it's done, it's still not gonna be perfect for what I want. But like, I would be willing to take. I need a year anyway, is the way I view it. I need a year to kind of relax. To me, going back with what I've done and polishing it is fun work to me. I enjoy that. And to me, like but it was not a lot of brain power the way that it was making it the initial.
Yeah.
That's a lot of creative energy. I've burned a lot of creative energy the last like 9 years, in particular the last 3 or 4. And I just need a little gap here. So but I don't want to stop working. So to me, this is a way to do that, to kind of also expand a fan base, reach out to 5e audiences, reach out to maybe Shadow Dark. I've really considered that as well. And just because I've had a lot of people asking for both those systems, and I get that question a lot. So I feel like that would warrant me to go back and do all this
Yeah.
And if maybe you're the type who wants a collector, who wants the perfect OSC version, I'll offer that too. I don't know yet, but I don't want to make it seem like I'm milking you 800 times the same book either. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that that for different audiences, it is good. And it's interesting for different reasons. I mean, there really isn't that much for 5e like this. Even after, what are we now, 11 years in two versions of 5e, there's what is this big? I mean, there's a few that were like small, much smaller early on in the 2014 version, but nobody's making stuff like this now. I mean, it would be very unique in the 5e space.
yeah, and I think I'd have to. There's some work that needs to do to make it palatable to that crowd. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's moving more in that Dolmanwood type direction. But I think I could do it. So and it would be worth it. And so to my in my mind right now, this is 2 books. If I could get it down to like 500 pages each, I think I could do it. Like monsters not repeating, because like my goal is like a wilderness or a adventure book, like the reference book. Like, so you got your location open, but then if you need a magic item or a monster, the second book is so you're not in the.
That's all that,
I feel like, and that could have like the history and all that stuff, like the culture, the setting stuff could be more in the reference book, like a almanac or something, like like compendium, and then the adventure book's just straight up adventure content, like wilderness, underworld, all the dungeons, like. And I don't have to repeat the monsters, things like that. I think you could probably slim it a lot down and still have it really big, but doesn't need to be as big as it is. So, but I'm not regretting how I did it, because I feel like I had to do it that way to get through everything I wanted to get done, and I was funding it. I view this, a lot of people don't, they view it like separate books, like novels or something. And I know why they do that, but I view this as it's one book. I don't see it as 3 books. It's one book to me, and it's not finished. So like any author, once you're finished, you have to go back and look at it as a whole. So for me, that's like a necessary part of the whole process. So to me, this is, I hate this, I don't want to use this word, but it's almost like a draft. That's how it feels like. That's how I would look at it. And I feel like, as an artist, I want that time to be able to go back and really clean it up and make it like as best I could for a much larger audience space. And and then I've got my magnum piece, and then after that, I'm gonna not do big pieces like that anymore. I swear, but I need that year of recharge, and I need to finish this too. Part of me says you can't leave yet. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And even Tolkien, when he did Lord of the Rings, he went back and redid some stuff with The Hobbit to make it to fit into the world more. So, it's a storied tradition.
Yeah, this is like necromancer games or frog god games. They got their Rapanathuk. Richard Barton probably will always have his Ardenvool, like everyone has their thing that's sort of like, even if they move on, I guess for me, that's my Lord of the Rings. That's my piece. And I'm going to do other things. I got other great ideas I want to go after, and I'm excited about, but I just feel like I can't leave this till I'm finished with it. So I'll be finished in about 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 5. And then the true work will begin. So, but it's all conversion work.
All right. Well, everyone, go to pulphummock.com. Also, you can find Rob over on the Twitter if you want to keep up to date with his musings. And tomorrow night, I will be back with Doomstore talking about ways to run monsters in 1E that are more horrific. So
Thanks for having me.
We will see about that. All right.